And joining me for more on this is Asanga Abeyagoonasekera. He's an analyst and author and currently senior fellow with the Millennium Project in Washington, D.C. Asanga, I know it's a very complex problem, but if you were to choose, is this mainly a case of economic mismanagement or bad luck or both?
I think the mix of everything, Biresh, when it comes to the Sri Lankan crisis, mainly on the inward economic policies, as well as the, I call it actually, there's a strategic trap which is going on with the external funding, especially with China. So there is a liquidity issue. There's no foreign reserves. There is an insolvency problem. We don't have money to pay the borrowings, the large borrowings. The infrastructure, large-scale infrastructure, which is about 70% which China is built, is not generating any revenue. So we are in a serious situation right now. I mean, the inward policies I mentioned was the government's reluctant for months to go to IMF. Only last week they decided to go for IMF. They also rejecting multiple loans as well as the grants, the Millennium Challenge grant. So there are multiple factors.
Could the government have prevented this just on the point of the inward issues that you were mentioning?
Definitely, they should have prevented. There was a lot of good advice starting from last year, I believe. Many advised the government, but because of their, the policies that the inward policy that they calculated as well as they wanted to go ahead with, so they kept on rejecting all this advice. So this was a very unfortunate situation. We saw it coming. We could have prevented it. COVID did, the pandemic did have sort of a serious impact, like the tourism dry up, the tourism revenue as well as the remittances. But that's not the only factor. There were inward policies which the government, followed, such as, I'll give you multiple examples, the East Container Terminal, which we lost time. We tried to stop it, we terminated the agreement with the Japan, India, the tripartite agreement with Sri Lanka. So multiple affects the Japanese LRT. So we were borrowing much more from commercial loans than the concessional loans. You can see a huge percentage of going up on the commercial loan side, right. So at 4%, and so it is a situation that many saw, but then could have prevented. But unfortunately, because of the reason I bring in China to this, China is not the only the concern here, but China is one of the serious concerns because the large-scale projects are not generating the money that we have borrowed now. Recently, we got $1 billion from China to pay their own loans, but we don't know what the interest rates are. So there is a serious situation. That's why I call it a strategic debt, strategic trap, rather than it's on top. Debt trap has been debunked, and there's a lot of debunking theories about the debt trap, saying that the volume of Chinese loans are not so much than the commercial loans. So I don't agree with that. So there are three factors that's coming in the strategic trap, which is the political dimension, the China's assistance to political situation, political party, as well as to move it to a semi-autocratic model in there, as well as the human rights and the military assistance.
A number of factors there, as we'd mentioned to our viewers earlier, a very complex problem. Asanga, unfortunately, we've run out of time. We'll have to leave it there for the time being, but I'm pretty certain this is not the end of the discussion on the unfortunate situation Sri Lanka finds itself in. Asanga Abeyagoonasekera from the Millennium Project in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.